So you own a small shop with maybe only 1 or 2 employees. But the problem that you're running into is that no matter how much work is getting done, it's getting done too slowly and you're not hitting your shop rate no matter what you try to do. When should you be looking at your employees and when should you actually be taking a long, hard look in the mirror? What's up, guys? Ian Sandusky from Lakewood Machine Tool back here again for Practical Machinist. And today on Machine Shop Talk, we're going to be diving back into the Practical Machinist forums to help tackle this kind of situation that has cropped up for a poster. But before we do, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications below to make sure you never miss a video. Let's get into it. Okay guys, so as promised today, we are going to be tackling a scenario that is bound to crop up sooner or later if you make the step of hiring employees. So when you go from a one-person show in a garage to a 2-person show, or whatever that may look like for you, this is gonna crop up. To quickly summarize the scenario that the poster came to the Practical Machinist shop management and ownership subforum with, this is kind of what's happening. So it sounds like they are a very, very small shop. If I'm interpreting it correctly, it's just the person who's posting and they have 1 employee. And they hired this employee because as these things start to happen, they were managing to run, it sounds like they have a few machines at least. They just couldn't run everything by themselves. They were getting too busy, so they brought someone on. This person that they hired is apparently a very experienced machinist, or at least moderately so. They can run, they can set up, they can program. They're basically a self-sufficient machinist. They can do a bit of everything. The shop is a low volume, high mix shop. So that means they're doing a lot of different parts and very few of them. So they're doing a lot of prototypes. They're doing a lot of one-offs, 2Z, 3Z type work. And if you've been in this business for a while and you've run these kind of jobs, you know that the margins can be very good on those, but because of everything that goes into programming a part like that and running it and setting it up, it's very easy to go over budget in terms of labor on a job like that. And that's kind of what's happening. The person who came on with post said that this employee, while their parts are good, they are capable of producing good parts, they're not making scrap, they're taking 30 to 50% longer than the person who owns the shop to do the same work. Now, this is a bit of a problem because, the person who's posting says they've tried talking about it, they've tried, pretty much everything reasonable, and they just don't understand what's going on. To make it worse, in a way, the person that they're talking about is a nice person. They get along well with them, and that person is reliable. So it's not like they're a bad employee. They're a good employee, but they're slow, and they can't seem to figure it out. And it's to the point that this poster is saying that they're wondering if a shop with high mix, low volume, like this, like a prototype shop, can't even really work with more than 1 person because the employee just doesn't seem to be able to do it as fast as the owner. And they're wondering, is that because, maybe they don't care or they don't have that hustle? To illustrate kind of just what we're talking about here, the poster said that they gave a job to their employee. This is a higher run production part. They were doing 100 parts. So they gave the job to the employee went and programmed it and started running it. The poster came down and looked, and the program was taking 30 minutes per part. 30 minutes per part times 100 is a lot of minutes. So the poster went to their computer, reprogrammed it very quickly, they said. It's not like they spent 8 hours taking time out of this program. They managed to do it very quickly, and they got the program down to 7 minutes from half an hour. That's 23 minutes faster. And if you do 23 minutes wasted per part times 100, that's enough that this job could literally be costing the guy who owns the shop money to run. At the end of the day, it's not even covering the labor, let alone the material. And that's a scenario that just does not work. And the poster said that, hey, listen, I don't understand why this guy couldn't have programmed it the same way. They said that they have a full tool library in their CAM software with all the feeds and speeds there. So it's not a skill issue. And he did it with exactly the same tooling, whatever it was. It's not like this was a massive skill issue. So he just doesn't understand what's going on. And apparently when he talked to the machinist about it and said, hey, listen, what's going on with this part? Kind of what they've drilled down to with this machinist is that the machinist said the shop they were working at before this new, very small shop, the management there didn't really care about how much time things took to get done, as long as they were done right. So his mentality and just the way he's been taught and the way he works is slow, but it comes out right. So yeah, the poster is basically just asking the form, what do I do here? I'm at the end of my rope, I'm losing money. Do I scale back? Do I fire him and just do what I can do myself and that's it? Should I try to hire another employee? He said when he interviewed for this role, this guy was top of the pile by a long shot. So he's saying, I don't even think I can get a better employee in terms of skills, so what do I do? As someone who's been involved in hiring at a shop for many, many years now, I definitely understand this, and I'm gonna say that this happens more than you would think. It's a very common scenario. The first criticism that I think I want to address that I know is gonna crop up is people are gonna say, well, of course the employee's not gonna care and hustle as much as the owner. He's not the owner. He has no skin in the game. He's an employee, he comes, he clocks in, he clocks out, he goes home. And there's nothing wrong with that. Why should he care as much as the guy who has so much more to gain? I think that's a fair thing to say, but at the same time, I don't think it's fair to explain away that behavior or that slowness or whatever you want to call it with the fact that he's not an owner. Because if you go to these giant aerospace shops where there's 100 employees there, you have some of the best machinists in the world there producing some of the best parts and doing it quickly. And not a single one of those guys is going to be an owner. And that's okay. There are some of the best machinists I've ever met personally are employees who have no desire to own a shop. They love machining, they're good at it, they also want to go home and not think about work at the end of the day. And that's fine. Everybody's not cut out to be an owner, not everybody's cut out to be a good employee. There's no hierarchy there, especially when it comes to machinists. So I don't think it's fair to say, well, that's the reason. The forum had some really good advice here as well. And the first point that I agreed with is that this little shop with one owner, one management guy, and one employee, it doesn't actually have an employee issue. It has a management issue. The owner of the shop said themselves, they went and very quickly were able to take that program from 30 minutes to 7. And they're wondering why the employee can't do it. Here's the real question. If that guy can do that very quickly, why isn't he doing it every time? What's the point? If you can do that yourself, easy, quick, and save hours, probably 2 days on a runtime, why are you not doing that yourself? Why are you giving this to him? You need to be able to understand that people are people, whether they are working in a shop or whether they are working in a store or whether they are doing anything. People are people. We have strengths and we have weaknesses. I think that if you're going to have high expectations of people, yes, proper training and investing in that is critical. People are not going to meet your expectations if you don't communicate them. People are not going to do things the way you want them done if you do not take the time, pay the money to show them and teach them, period. But people are people. They have things they're good at, and they have things they're not good at. I think it's pretty fair to say, and I think most of you will agree with me, especially, people who maybe have been out there in the world for a little bit. People, once they hit a certain age, I don't know what that age is, it's probably different for everybody, but once they hit that certain age, they don't really change that much, and certainly not because the boss says so. Period. People don't really change that much. You can train weaknesses, you can teach people things, but the way people are don't really change that much, and that's okay. The problem becomes if you expect people to change, demand people to change, or you're just not playing to those strengths and weaknesses correctly. Look at it this way. Let's say you have a guy who does not like quality control. and you keep trying to force him into quality control, guess what? You're probably going to ship bad parts because that person does not like doing that job. That's probably not going to change no matter how much you train them. Or think about someone who is very slow and methodical like this, but they produce really good parts. If you sit there and keep trying to rush them and rush them and rush them, you're probably not going to get them, well, I mean, you might get them faster, but you're probably going to ship bad parts. That person's now rushed, they're frazzled, they're stressed. This isn't the way they work. It's not going to work. Or if you have the guy who's really, really fast and he's great at reloading machines, but he's not most attentive and a tool breaks. Or, you know, they get frazzled and things kind of get half done sometimes. If you try to slow that guy down, make him slower, take your time, blah, 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 you might get him slow down a bit. You can certainly make him a bit more attentive. But if all you do is try to focus on changing the way they work and the way they are, they're probably going to quit or ship bad parts. You need to look at people's strengths and weaknesses and lean into their strengths and try to minimize exposure to their weaknesses. So that guy who's not good at QA, he doesn't like checking parts. Well, I mean, still, you got to check parts. It's part of being a machinist, but maybe he doesn't want to do the intensive stuff. Maybe they're a fantastic programmer and you're wasting their skills on QA. Or that guy who does really, not really, but he does slower work, but it's methodical. You put him on production, it's wasting his talents. You're maximizing the exposure to his weakness. Put that person on the really tight tolerance stuff, the die work, maybe put him on QA. You know, you want to lean into they're methodical. How do I maximize that for me and make sure they're doing what they want to do? That person who's really fast and, you know, maybe they're really suited to production, yes, you got to train them to make sure they're being more attentive as you can. But hey, listen, you probably shouldn't be doing QA. You probably shouldn't be doing the one-offy stuff. You should be doing production all day. I want you to run around this place like the Tasmanian devil, just like you like to do. And we're going to try to, you know, put a helper with you to help make sure everything's getting done. But we're going to maximize the fact that you can get a lot done really fast. The most important thing that I think the poster needs to keep in mind here, and someone else said this in the thread as well, this isn't a unique idea, is that they said it themselves. They have a very good employee. They're reliable, they show up, they're easy to get along with. You can't really train those things. You got it or you don't. And, you know, even if someone is like that at one shop, maybe they don't mesh as well with someone else at another shop. Right now, you have an employee that is good. What you're doing is not dividing the labor correctly. Maybe the owner should be the only one programming, and the guy on the floor, he just sets up and runs. Cycle times are short. Even if they burn an extra hour setting up because they're slow, you're still saving 2-3 days on production run. So it's really dividing that labor that's going to help. In any case, guys, I'd like to know how you have dealt with this in the past. Have you had a scenario like this? What did you do? Did you fire them? Did you train them? Did they change? I'd love to know in the comments below. And as always, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications below to make sure you never miss a video. Thank you very much for watching, guys. You take care.